Thanks for joining us for episode 3 of the series on risk management for licensed clubs. Again, I'm joined by Greg Wakeham from the 90. Greg, in this episode, we're going to talk about cooking fires and how we can manage that risk and cash management. So if we can start by cooking fires, it's one of the more prominent reasons why fires occur in licensed premises. What can clubs do to manage that risk?
I think the big thing straight away is just regular cleaning of the extraction systems. So we'd be looking at the canopies and the filter screens to be cleaned on at least a weekly basis.
Yep.
And then the ducting, the full level of the ducting that goes up above the filter screens all the way to the outside of the building should be cleaned probably 6 monthly by a professional contractor.
Okay.
Some of the contractors these days are providing photographs of when they've cleaned the ducting, which I think is a really good strategy because the club can then keep that. And in the event something does go wrong, they can provide that evidence of regular cleaning to the insurers.
And it's excellent to be able to provide that evidence to the insurers as well, because as we've alluded to in the original episode of this series, our insurers are being very stringent and very strict on what they're looking for, and they want some proof that things are getting done in this market. So that's an excellent piece of advice for clubs, I think.
Yeah.
The cleaning of the filters, that can just be done by in-house staff.
Absolutely. Sometimes I put them in the dishwasher, sometimes I'll just take them out the back and wash them off. Just make sure that they use the right detergent to do that, but it's relatively straightforward. The ducting always has to be done by a professional contractor, obviously. Thinking about suppression systems, there is the option to install a suppression system within the extraction system as well, and that will prevent a fire from, or at least sort of slow the spread of a fire from over the cooktops and the deep fries into the ducting, and therefore slow the spread around the rest of the club as well.
And that's a really pertinent point right now in this market. There's a number of insurers actually insisting on that. It's a good idea, and in some cases it's nearly a necessity to get that done. So it's something that boards should be thinking about putting that in their capital expenditure budget over the next 12 to 18 months.
Absolutely. And a couple of other little things I think we can focus on is just procedural things. So in the event of a fire on the cooktops or the deep fries, making sure the staff know about shutting down the extraction fan, giving them a really easy place to shut off the gas, because the gas is really going to be the main fuel for the fire. So have a readily accessible gas valve for people to shut that off. And also maybe look at fire extinguisher training so that all employees are regularly trained on which fire extinguisher to use and how to use it. I think that's quite important, especially from a life safety perspective. If you find yourself trapped by a fire, it's always good to know you can get an extinguisher and find your way through and out of the building.
And so one of the things I've learned over the years is there's different types of extinguishers for different types of fires, particularly in the kitchens.
Yep. You've
got fat fires, you've got electrical fires that can occur there.
Yep.
Which ones do we use for which?
Absolutely. So I always recommend that we install a carbon dioxide extinguisher in there first for use as just a first. That way, if you're not using a dry powder extinguisher, you're not going to get powder all over the cooking equipment.
Yeah.
If you do get the powder all over the equipment, there's a good chance it'll all need to be replaced.
Yeah.
So as a first port of call, you can use a carbon dioxide. For your deep fries, you're going to use the wet chemical extinguisher. So it's important to have at least one wet chemical extinguisher in. And you need to make sure that the wet chemical extinguisher is not too big that it can't be picked up.
Yeah.
So they come in various sizes, so it means that you need to do 2 of a smaller size rather than 1 really big one, just to make it easy for staff to pick up and take to the deep fries. That's a good thing.
Okay, excellent. And obviously, extinguisher training is something you can help with?
Absolutely, yep.
All right. We're going to move on to cash management. Cash is a big aspect of clubs, as you know. They deal with a lot of cash, so I guess they are a target for criminals. How do we go about, what are the basics of managing cash in a club?
I think getting an armed hold-up risk assessment done is a really good thing. That's something that we try and do when we go out and see clubs.
Yep.
So that just identifies the risks, risks people breaking in, what's going to happen when they do break in. Looking at things like where cash is stored. So it's nice to have the cash stored throughout the club, not just in the one area. Where it is stored, it's good that it's in maybe a strong room, or the safe should be a key and combination safe. It should be torch and drill resistant, bolted to the floor, time delayed, all those sorts of things, just to sort of slow down people when they get into the club.
Well, obviously, thieves want to be in and out as quick as possible. They want to be getting caught, so anything that you can do to delay them to actually get their hands on the cash.
Yep.
Professional money characters, a must.
Absolutely, money carries are really important, so that's something that we would always say should be engaged by our club as well. And then just the general security. So looking at the perimeter security, looking at the lighting internally and externally as well is quite important, making sure that there's adequate spotlights outside the club. And just looking at points of ingress as well. So how can thieves get in, and making sure that you've got the adequate alarm systems and the adequate physical security to stop them getting in as well. It might be in the form of bollards, making sure that your ATMs are appropriately positioned away from external doors so that minimises the ram rate.
Bolted to the floor, obviously.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, no, I've had a few incidents where forklifts have come through the front door and taken the whole thing with them. So, putting them away from the front door is an excellent idea.
Definitely.
Anything else we can talk about on cash management?
I think that's they're really the main issues. It's important to make sure that I think that armed hold-up risk assessment is done, and that really just outlines all of the risks, and then we can just get into addressing those risks.
And I think that the important point there is that every club's different. And they've got different physical aspects, they've got different amounts of cash, they've got different training issues. So having that assessment done will tailor something specifically for the weaknesses that they may have for that particular club.
Absolutely. Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you, Greg, for joining us, and thank you for that expert opinion. Thank you for joining us. I hope you got something out of that, and we'll see you in the next series. Thanks very much.